The seller might be unprotected in a subject to deal, and we're gonna be talking about how a seller like this can be protected if they sold their house to me subject to. We do more subject to content than anybody else on the planet. We are going to answer a question that just popped up in my DMs. I had a lady named Leslie DM me literally 2 minutes ago. She says, I'm in a tricky home situation. Okay, that happens a lot. They're called expired listings typically. And how many of those do we see pop up every day? 15,000. There's 15,000 opportunities a day to buy a subject to or seller finance deal. They're everywhere. And I just got a DM from her saying, I've got a house in Colorado. It's struggling to sell, under contract on a home in Georgia to move our family to. So she's in Colorado. She's had her house listed with a real estate agent. Surprise, surprise, real estate agents are really not that great at real estate. And she says, we're moving to Georgia and we need to get rid of this Colorado house right now. We can't close the deal unless I sell in Colorado. Any brilliant ideas? Yeah, subject to. Are you joking me?
Any more brain busters?
I know this isn't a business question, but I thought you may have a solution. So I'm gonna ask her, why wouldn't you just sell the house subject to? Well, here's one of the reasons why they won't sell subject to is because the seller might be unprotected in a subject to deal. And we're gonna be talking about how a seller like this can be protected if they sold their house to me subject to.
Fasten your seatbelt, please.
Let's talk about this. How is a seller protected in subject to? Well, the first thing is the paperwork. Okay, the paperwork, utilizing a top tier transaction coordinator. I would never use a transaction coordinator that is not a top tier certified transaction coordinator, somebody who's been certified in top tier real estate transactions, which is creative finance. I also would use a very specific title and escrow company, which is Creative Title and Escrow. They're in all 50 states. They help do the paperwork properly. Now, what does the paperwork do to protect the seller? Well, number one, you want to make sure that the transaction was done properly, the deed was transferred properly, the buyer actually converted the money properly, and the seller received what they were promised. You want to make sure all of those things are done properly. It sounds like common sense, but also in the paperwork, you can set up number two, which is a deed in lieu agreement, which is you can say, look, hey seller, if I default on your payments, which is, could happen. I could get hit by a bus, I could get abducted by aliens. If I stop making payments on this house, I will deed the property back to you and you don't have to foreclose on me. Now, if the seller says, okay, that's great, I'm gonna let you know that this is about 90% of transactions. 90% of sellers just say, no problem, the paperwork, the top tier TC will protect me, the creative finance, specific title and escrow company will make sure all the paperwork's done properly so I'm protected. But sometimes sellers are really worried about a couple of things. They are worried about the due on sale clause, okay? So the due on sale clause is a real concern, and some of the newer people in creative finance cannot overcome this objection. I've never had a problem with this objection just because I know how to talk to sellers. But let's say you're brand new and you don't know how to overcome this objection. The way to overcome a due on sale clause is through an executory contract. So what I would do is I would go over to another part of my YouTube channel where I talk about what an executory contract is and how it helps you out with the due on sale clause and how you can also just buy a house. In Arizona, we call them agreement for sale. I'm currently in Montana, we call them contract for deed. And every single state has a different name for these things, but at the end of the day, they're called an executory contract. I'd say about 5% of the time I buy on an executory contract, and about 5% of the time I get a seller that just nothing will solve the problem except for them getting a larger down payment. Now, why would a larger down payment protect the seller? Well, let's say the seller has to take the property back. The seller has received a large down payment and it's worth their risk just in case I get hit by a bus or abducted by an alien for them to take the property back, get the property, keep the money that I gave them as a deposit, and then ultimately go put that property back on the market. Larger down payments or better terms for the seller is a great way to protect the seller. It just kind of depends on who the buyer is. I did make an amazing video about if you are a seller trying to sell your house on subject to or seller finance. That video right here will tell you as a seller what you should do, what you should ask, and who you should be looking for in a buyer. Guys, thank you so much for letting me share this with you, but I've never seen a seller not protected in a sub-2 transaction because my team, Top Tier TC, Creative Title and Escrow, have perfected the process of creative finance in all 50 states, including Puerto Rico. If you want more of a step-by-step guide, a live interaction, and a community of people that are doing deals, I would suggest taking a look at the sub-2 community. You can get on the phone with one of our enrollment directors to see if there's an open spot in your state. Some of the states are closed out because of the heavy demand, so go ahead, get on the phone with an enrollment development director and see if sub 2 community is a right fit for you. If you guys have questions about this video or other videos, please make a comment down below and we'll make future videos to help you understand how a seller is protected in a sub 2 transaction. Later.